Hi, this video is intended to provide a close look at one of the terms distributed for this week of our study, and that term is apposition. Apposition is an important concept in understanding the style and structure of Beowulf. What does apposition mean? Well, basically, apposition is a term from grammar which refers to two phrases in close succession that modify each other, and they're described as appositive phrases. They're said to be in apposition or apposite to one another, as in Jonathan Newman, a professor at Missouri State, eats a bagel, right? So these two phrases, Jonathan Newman, a professor at Missouri State, are apposite to one another. They are both doing the same function in the sentence alongside each other. And this is something that we see constantly in Beowulf. For example, Shield Chieftain, Scourge of Many Tribes, a Wrecker of Mead Benches, from Beowulf 4-5. It comes from a Latin root meaning placed next to. And it was this idea of the importance of apposition in Beowulf was really put forward by the Old English scholar Fred C. Robinson in an article and later a series of lectures that were collected into a book called Beowulf and the Appositive Style. Now, Beowulf was originally probably an oral poem that it was transmitted by bards, by singers of tales who memorized the legendary stories and deeds of their people and transmitted them. And it was written in Old English. You can see on the left here an example of Old English. What we gardena in year dagam feud kinninga thrimge frunan huda athelingers ellen fremedon. Oft shield shaving sheldena threatem monagem maitham meodus setla of tea. God bless you. No, but seriously, don't call Shakespeare Old English. It's not. This is Old English. Old English is the English that was spoken by the Old English people. I talked about this in another video. And it was essentially another language from modern English. On the right, we have Seamus Heaney's translation, which appears in our Norton anthology. And he translates this word "what," which is an attention getter. It means like listen up. But Heaney translates it, so, the Speardanes in days gone by and the kings who ruled them had courage and greatness. We have heard of those princes' heroic campaigns. There was Shield Chieftain, Scourge of Many Tribes, a Wrecker of Mead Benches, rampaging among foes. Here we see three appositive phrases, all accumulating more information about Shield Chieftain. This terror of the hall troops had come far. A foundling to start with, he would flourish later on as his powers waxed and his worth was proved. In the end, each clan on the outlying coasts beyond the whale road had to yield to him and begin to pay tribute. That was one good king. I like the Old English here. That was good kinning. So, what is the point of all this? Well, in part it's to establish what it is to be a good king, because this is one of the things that Beowulf is about. And what does it mean to be a good king in this early, primitive, violent Germanic world? Well, to be like Shield Chieftain, Scourge of Many Tribes, a Wrecker of Mead Benches, rampaging among foes. A great king is a great warrior, and we're going to meet Beowulf soon, who is also a great warrior. Apposition is used elsewhere in this poem. Here's another small example of these kinds of appositive phrases and how they contribute to the style of Beowulf. When Shield dies, and the beginning of this poem is, in a sense, a discussion of this legendary king, and then his funeral. We get a description of the funeral, and you guys may or may not know about the sort of typical early Germanic way of burying great and important people was to put them on a ship, cover them in treasure, set the ship on fire, and put them out to sea, the so-called Viking funeral. Here we get a description of that. A ring-whorled prow rode in the harbor, ice-clad, outbound, a craft for a prince. Here we get these three different appositive phrases, all modifying the ring-whorled prow. Now, prow, of course, is the part of the ship. That's an example of synecdoche, a literary term you should know for if you've taken 235. They stretched out their beloved lord in his boat, laid out by the mast, amidships, the great ring giver. And here we see this appositive phrase, the great ring giver, modifying their beloved lord. And this accumulates more detail about what it means to be a good king. In Germanic society, a good king conquers his enemies, and then gives out treasure to his warriors, to his retainers. And there is a reciprocity between them, an exchange between a king and his warriors that makes up the central clan of warrior society that Beowulf describes. Now, Beowulf goes on to tell the tale of Skjold-Skjefson's descendant Hrothgar, the king of the Danes, who builds a mead hall, a feasting hall called Heorot, which is a mighty achievement for this king until a challenger appears, a monster named Grendel. And we get this description of this monster developed through apposition as well. Here from line 86, then a powerful demon, a prowler through the dark, nursed a hard grievance. See, a prowler through the dark. More information about that demon. It harrowed him to hear the din of the loud banquet every day in the hall. And now we get an appositive phrase to clarify what is that din, what is that sound? The harp being struck, and the clear song of a skilled poet telling with mastery of man's beginnings. And now a long apposition to what that song is, how the Almighty had made the earth a gleaming plain girdled with waters. In his splendor he set the sun and the moon to be earth's lamplight, lanterns for men, and filled the broad lap of the world with branches and leaves, and quickened life in every other thing that moved. Can you spot another apposition phrase in this description of creation? That's right, lanterns for men, describing Earth's lamplight, the sun and moon. We get this accumulation of descriptions, this variation that enlarges our understanding of what the poet's trying to communicate. Now, according to Fred Robinson, apposition doesn't just govern Beowulf's style at the level of sentence, but at larger narrative units. For example, the whole poem begins with a discussion of this guy Skjold-Skjefson and his descendant Beo, and talks about how he's a good king. And then you get a genealogy to Hrothgar, but there's no real narrative connection between this beginning about Skjold-Skjefson and the rest of the poem. Why is it there? It's not there just to tell a linear story, but to put the example of Skjold-Skjefson in apposition to Beowulf. Likewise, later on, after Beowulf has killed or attacked Grendel and is like sort of chasing him out to the hole in the forest, where the water hole where Grendel has gone to hide, we get a poet following along, riding a horse, singing a song about Siegfried. Why Siegfried? Well, he's another famous dragon slayer like Beowulf. It's just that put there in apposition more conceptually. And likewise, the poem as a whole consists of 3 monster fights that are all kind of next to each other, and in the manner of apposition, paralleling each other, developing and accumulating, rather than kind of developing in a linear way.